Hi there, and welcome back to the Beginner Overview course for Gravity Sketch 6.0. My name is Andre Bruni from MotionReel Academy, and this is part 4, Making More Stuff. Alright, before we get into the submenus of some of the tools that we talked about in part 3, I want to talk a little bit about Sub D and NURBS inside of Gravity Sketch 6. A lot of people ask the question, what's the difference between NURBS and Sub D? Why do they even have both inside of Gravity Sketch? So I have discovered the answer. NURBS modeling is more for architectural work and solid modeling. The other thing you have to consider when you're working with NURBS is what software that you'll be working with after Gravity Sketch. If it's CAD software, then you'll be using NURBS, and when you bring it into the CAD software, it will render and be editable. Sub D is more for organic style modeling, although you can model hard surface with Sub D. So why would you even use NURBS or Sub D? The answer to that question is probably the project that you're working on. Let's say you're working on a building project, and the end result is going to be a CAD building model. Sub D is more for animation work, video game work, and film as well. What exactly is NURBS inside of Gravity Sketch? So NURBS, when you draw a line with the ink tool or the stroke tool, these are actually NURBS curves. And you can bring these curves right into a CAD program and use these curves inside that program. Gravity Sketch has tools that CAD software may not have. Say the ability to trace a building or a piece of a building. The one tool out of all the tools that we have here that is not NURBS is the ribbon tool. When you draw with the ribbon tool, this is actually Sub D geometry. Now I can take this and turn it into Sub D. So you can see this is just one line creating this piece of geometry, and I can make changes to this line and it will change the geometry, and that's how NURBS works. It works with just the one line. Now when I turn this into Sub D, you'll see that it a bunch of squares. So I can't modify this any longer the way that I could when it was a NURBS object like this. All of these objects here from the Revolve tool are actually NURBS objects until I use the menu here to turn them into Sub D objects. So I can actually hit this tool and you'll see that it turns this NURBS object into a Sub D object. Once I've done that inside of Gravity Sketch, I can't turn it back into a NURBS object. All right, now that we've covered NURBS versus Sub D, and I hope you have a better understanding of it, I certainly do. Now we'll get into the submenus of the ink, stroke, and surface tools that we have here. All right, first let's take a look at the ink tool again. We covered all of this section here. Now we're going to take a look at this section for all the tools. Now, when you draw out a line with the ink tool, we'll do that now. So here's a line I've just drawn out with the ink tool. And I put it into edit mode by grabbing it with my grab hand and hitting the blue button, and that turns it into edit mode. Now I can edit this. This geometry can be any of these different shapes that we have here. This is just the round shape, and you can see how that affects the geometry. Now I change the shape, and now this turns into a more of a squared object. This is a diamond, and gives it a diamond effect where it has 4 edges instead of just 2. And then we have the fine line. We can now edit its shape by moving this dot to make it flatter or thinner, depending on where we move this. So we can create an endless amount of shapes by combining this, and if you move it up and down, it'll change the thickness. Next up, we'll look at the stroke tool. It basically has most of the same options except for a couple down here that we will cover now. Polar symmetry. This is just an amazing tool. If I turn this up, then it will give me more, it will mirror the stroke that I'm drawing that many times around in a circle. Once you've created this, you can, again, turn it into a sub D object, and you can bake it, or bake the entire thing, so that they're all now editable sub D objects. And, I mean, it's just so many different ways to use this tool that I'll have to make a whole nother video about that. So that's polar symmetry. Everything else is the same from tool to tool in this area. Select this tool, select the tool that you want to, the type of extrusion that you want. So in this case, we're going to do a precise quilt. If we select this one, move over the line until you see this yellow line pop up. Now you can extrude geometry directly from this line, and it will follow that same path. If I have two lines next to each other like this, and I want to bridge these two lines, then I choose this tool, the bridge tool. When I have this selected, to make the bridge, there has to be two lines there. You turn the tool on, and then you turn both triggers on. And that will create a bridge between the two lines that you can then start to drag, and it will follow both lines exactly to make a piece of geometry. Now we'll take a look at the options for the revolve tool. Let's make a revolve and put it in edit mode. Now, using this, I can change the thickness of this. We've already covered these, but here you can, of course, turn it into a sub D object from this point and continue to work on it. All the sub D now already done for you, and now you can just go in and start to extrude stuff and build more complex shapes from your revolves. That's basically it for all the drawing tools and all of their options. Stay tuned for the next video. Thank you.